Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm Ringmaster Sal, live from the AMP TV studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic and cowboy-cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Welcome in, everybody listening in on our radio affiliates, all of our television affiliates from coast to coast, our networks and independent affiliates. Everybody also watching on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. Also, make sure that you like and follow Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. It's free, it's fun, it's just about food, and have a little bit of fun with it. All right. So we had the trade deadline that had come and gone in Major League Baseball. And of course, there's always winners and losers and all this other crap. But, you know, we think about the alleged winners and losers, and we ask ourselves, I mean, who really won in this? Honestly, I think it was the advertisers that won. Because really, if you look at all of the trades or the alleged trades, the so-called trades, whatever it was, and you say, well, there was a couple of good deals, right? There was a couple of really good deals, but most of them were kind of middle of the road. And some of the big players that we expected to go did not go. The Chicago White Sox did not move Garrett Crochet or Louis Robert Jr. Of course, an astounding round of applause for that. So they have somebody actually put some butts in the seats. But when you look at the standings up and down, you say, well, who made moves? Who needed to make moves? And looking at the standings in the American League East, of course, the Yankees made some moves, and I don't really think they made any great moves. Honestly, it was sort of a conundrum. We'll get into those in a minute. The Red Sox did as well. The Tampa Bay Rays did as well. And the Blue Jays, who are in the cellar, believe it or not, at 9 games under 500, they made some moves. Every team in the American League East made moves. Cleveland, I think, did pretty well. Minnesota, not really sure. Kansas City, not so sure. Detroit, they took back a stockpile for Flaherty from the Dodgers. The White Sox got loads and loads of prospects, but of course prospects are just that. Seattle, they may have helped themselves a little bit. Who really needed to? Maybe the Texas Rangers needed to make more happen, seeing that they're sitting 4.5 back. Surprisingly, the Angels made a fair amount of moves. And in the American League, that's kind of what we come up with. But now in the National League, the Phillies with a 7-game lead over the Braves. Now, they are down Ranger Suarez for a little bit of time, so they could have used a little bit of extra pitching help. Atlanta did a little bit of shuffling of the deck, so to say. I think any team in the National League that probably needed to make the most moves, if any, I would say it would be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, they did a little bit of deck shuffling as well, but look, they're good enough to, I don't know, I think they're good enough to get back to the World Series. St. Louis Cardinals made a lot of moves, sitting just 6 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers and 3 over. So as we look at the wild card standings, and I guess this will give us a better picture, within the American League, Cleveland, Baltimore, Seattle occupy those spots, and they've got, those are the top spots, and the wild card is the Yankees. They're 5 games up. They're not going anywhere. They're gonna probably end up making the playoffs unless they have a Seattle implosion like they did. But then again, Seattle took the lead back over the Houston Astros. So the Astros now, it's either win the division or get back in first place. Because right now, just with a loss here or there, it looks like the Astros would be about a few games back. So if you look at that American League West, again, it's Seattle only 1 game up over Houston. But when you look at that wild card, you say, well, the difference, if you win the division, you're only a game back. Otherwise, you've got to chase down the teams ahead of you, which at this point, well, it's going to be Boston, Kansas City, Minnesota, and the New York Yankees. But Tampa sits only a half a game behind them in the wild card standings. That's why they were busy making moves. But the Rangers, again, if they don't win the division, here's a heavy dose of reality. If the Rangers don't get back and win that division, well, guess what happens? The Rangers right now are 7 games back and 4 under 500. 7. So the reality is, it's a very cold and harsh reality for the Texas Rangers. I mean, look, just from the wild card slot, you're 7 games back. From the division, you're 7 games back. I don't know. I thought Texas would have probably been sellers, just like the Detroit Tigers are only a half a game behind them. Over the National League, it's pretty simple, with the leaders being Philadelphia, LA, and Milwaukee, and Atlanta, San Diego, Arizona, and the Mets. Arizona and the Mets actually are in a dead heat right now, and they're both at 57 and 51, so they're tied for third place, that third wild card slot. But the Pittsburgh Pirates, they were very busy at the trade deadline. They are a game and a half back, just as St. Louis is a game and a half back of that final wild card spot. So looking at the National League Central, the National League Central has Milwaukee only a game and a half up on Pittsburgh and St. Louis, and the Cincinnati Reds are 4.5 back in the division. Cubs, you're 6.5 back, but 7 under 500. 7 under 500. That's a big number. So looking at what's going on in the National League, I'd say a lot more moves should have been made in the National League, only for those wild card slots. That's about it. So that said, we take a look at who was the alleged, or who were the alleged winners. And according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com, they say that the St. Louis Cardinals were the clear-cut winner at the trade deadline. The Cardinals, with a negative run differential and having lost a couple of series in a row, came into the deadline hanging around the NL wildcard chase, but with 3 glaring holes. They were short at starting pitching, they needed bullpen help, and they're awful against left-handed pitching. In fact, the team's .633 OPS against lefties ranks them 29th in Major League Baseball. Well, they seemingly went out and filled out those 3 holes without giving up much of anything that they'll miss this year or even in the future, honestly. Eric Fetty is one of the top 3 starting pitchers that moved at the deadline, and Fetty's a good one. In fact, he signed for the next year as well. Tommy Pham, at the age of 36, still hits lefties really hard at an .848 OPS, and that's not so bad. In fact, in Sean Alexander, while maybe not the Rays reliever they had preferred, is a bullpen filler, and they need basically any arm that can eat innings. And all they had to do was give up Tommy Edman, who hadn't played an inning this season and who had played positions for the Cardinals basically that are already being filled. Dylan Carlson, who had never quite figured it out as a Cardinal, and 2 lower tier prospects. So it looks like the Cardinals actually got well. And basically, if you look at it this way, considering how expensive the market for starting pitching ended up being, the Fetty trade looks like even more of a heist, of course, from Chris Getz and the Chicago White Sox. I mean, here you've got an inexperienced general manager looking at deals against experienced GMs. And it's almost like fishing with dynamite. I mean, Chris Getz seems to be throwing himself to the wolves, and I don't think he's going to last. But anyway, the Cardinals may not be a great team, but they need to act like one. And this is a very, very proud franchise that finished in last place last year and needs to show a frustrated fan base it can get back to the playoffs. And that's hardly a lock even in the wake of these trades, but it's a lot more likely now than it was before. So they say the Dodgers, being Major League Baseball, came in second place in the trade deadline wars. In fact, the Dodgers are always looking to sneak in a deal at the last second. And remember when they swiped Max Scherzer from the Padres in 2021? Yeah, and they did it again this year. Just minutes before the deadline, well, guess what? The Dodgers acquired Jack Flaherty from the Detroit Tigers. And essentially, it's possibly one of the top pitchers available at the deadline once it became clear Garrett Crochet was not leaving the White Sox. This is the second straight deadline that Flaherty switched teams, and it should be noted that he struggled for the Orioles last year, putting up a lofty 6.75 ERA and eventually losing his rotation spots. But apparently it's good enough for the Dodgers. So he had been a lot better in Detroit, maybe with a little less pressure. And that's just this year, though. Who knows? Go back a year. And maybe did he fool him once? Maybe fool me once, then fool him again. Who knows? This is possibly what happened. Maybe the Dodgers got burnt again on yet another pitcher, seeing that Ohtani they're paying crazy amount of money to, and Yamamoto a crazy amount of money to. Well, guess what? Either of those pitchers are not pitching this year on top of it. That's ridiculous. So is Flaherty going to be the third pitching bust for the Dodgers this year? I think a lot of people should be asking that question. I'm asking that question, so if I'm asking it, other people are probably doing it too. So I think the Dodgers may have been bamboozled once again. You never know. So I'm not really sure the Dodgers were a second place trade deadline deal. I do like the pickup, even though it pains me as a White Sox fan. It pains me to see Michael Kopech now wearing Dodger blue, although they do share the same spring training facility. It just pains me to see Kopech when they had so much into him. And this guy, man, he could really bring it. But he has a time where he's really on, and when this guy is on, he is on. So the Dodgers are going to do very well with Kopech coming out of the bullpen, and that's certainly one thing they needed, but I'm not so sure about Flaherty. Anyway, folks, back here with more baseball on the Sports Circus in a few minutes.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio here in fabulous Las Vegas AAMP for all ages media programming television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's a round of applause for them. They've been with us for about 8 years, thereabouts. Right around there. Anyway, big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHK. That's home of the New York Yankees, San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome in everybody else up and down the West Coast on all of our independents, all the way over to Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, 12:30 a.m., home of the Atlanta Braves, and a big welcome to our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for listening, and everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, Oceanic, and WOW Cable Television, Hotel Television in all Nielsen rated markets, plus everybody else participating and watching on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites. Nice round of applause for that. Make sure to join in, have some fun, post your recipes, your favorite restaurants, and I don't know, just have some fun with it, folks. All right, so trade deadline winners, according to MLB.com, there were some winners and there were some not winners, put it that way. There were some winners, they said they were winners, but I don't really think they were winners. In some cases they were winners, others there were head scratchers. The Dodgers had a nice mixed bag of head scratchers and winners, but then again, the St. Louis Cardinals apparently were the winner, according to MLB.com. I don't really know about that. And I certainly don't believe the Seattle Mariners were the winner, although they did add a little bit of help. Now, the Mariners allegedly came in third place, according to MLB.com, and the Mariners came into the trade deadline still tied for first in the American League West. But it sure doesn't feel that way, does it? I mean, Houston's really been playing good ball. They've had a couple of hiccups here or there, but man, they've really turned it on. They turned that season around, and I don't know, this looks like that very dangerous Houston team that we've known for the last, call it the last decade. In fact, still looking for their first division title since 2001, the Mariners are only about a month plus removed from a 10-game lead in the American League West that slipped and slid away. It evaporated like a nice puddle in the desert in the middle of July. Nonetheless, with the Rangers creeping up behind both the Astros and the Mariners, you would think the Rangers would have done more, but we're going to get to that in a minute. Now, look, as far as Seattle goes, this is still a team trying to do something special, and the deadline made it clear that they're not going to let injuries to Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford stop them. So the additions of Randy Arozarena and Justin Turner are not necessarily earth-shakers, but they raised the floor of a offense that was really starting Jorge Polanco in the cleanup spots, which really isn't the best case scenario. Arozarena is a bona fide power hitter. Turner has seen his flashes of greatness on the power side as well. He hits them when they count. He doesn't hit for big average right now, and honestly he hasn't historically, but Turner really hits them when they matter. Nonetheless, with the rotation like the Mariners have, your offense simply has to be passable. That's about it. I mean, they have arguably the best rotation in baseball. So, with the Arozarena and Turner and Julio Rodriguez coming back soon, Seattle should now be exactly that. They should be a bona fide contender, which really might be all they need. Now, the New York Mets apparently came in fourth place in this trade deadline winner race. I'm not so sure about that. Nonetheless, MLB says it's sort of remarkable how quickly we have collectively adjusted to the Mets making smart, prudent, small-scale moves. Now, for all the bluster from the ownership box, they're operating like a team that knows it's good enough to compete this year without blowing up everything in the future. And they've been pretty good about that. The Mets needed a lefty as far as the stick goes. They got Jesse Winker. I'm not really sure that's a great fix. I mean, he's not a bad player, but he's not a great player. They needed some rotation depth, so they got Paul Blackburn. And they needed bullpen arms. So, a whole bunch of them, as a matter of fact. And they didn't really give up anything that they'll miss, seemingly. Even better, the Braves, the team they're chasing in the NL East, and the wild card, didn't do much other than try to make it 2021 again by some kind of science or magic. And the Mets keep doing smart things. Eventually, it'll stop being a surprise. Now, the Orioles, who are one of the best teams in baseball, they needed a little bit of help. And they were the 5th place winner. I'm not really sure what color ribbon that would be, if you know what I mean. I mean, it seems like everybody gets a ribbon and a trophy these days. But the Orioles, according to MLB.com, came in 5th place. And, of course, the Oriole fans were dreaming of getting Skubal or Garrett Crochet or even Blake Snell. Well, that ship sailed. But the prices were obviously too high for any of those three to end up being traded to anybody, any teams. And you can certainly understand why the Orioles would be wary of trading for Jack Flaherty again, considering how lousy he was for them after last year's deadline. Why would you go back and drink the same Kool-Aid? You don't need that. So the Orioles did the next best thing. They went with quantity. Zach Eflin and Trevor Rogers instantly slot into the rotation, not just this year, but next year. And Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto are ideal patches for a tiring bullpen. Yeah, dog days of summer, it happens. That's a real thing. And of course, well, they're going to have to figure out how to get at-bats for Eloy Jimenez, come over from the White Sox. He is a very big power bat that you don't have to squint hard to imagine seeing launching a home run in a huge spot in October. And Christian Pache makes for an interesting outfield piece as well. So did they do well? I don't know. Look, what they really wanted was Skubal or Crochet. Crochet, the White Sox were probably going to require Jackson Holliday to come on over. And, well, I'm going to get into Jackson Holliday in just a minute. I kind of like that kid. He's a good one. Kind of like when Gunnar Henderson came up. Same idea. Nonetheless, the Orioles have flooded the zone with a bunch of interchangeable parts, and those parts will be very much in handy as they try to erase memories of last year's postseason and replace them with happier ones in this year. Now, the Phillies, who are rolling in the NL East, they still made some moves. Apparently, they came in 6th place, according to MLB.com, and they say, what do you want from a team with the best record in the National League? One stacked with veterans and clearly geared up to win the whole thing this year? You want them to attack their specific holes aggressively and not really sweat the price. So that's what the Phillies did. Sure, the Phillies had to give up a lot for Carlos Estevez, but he was arguably the best reliever on the market, and they did what they had to do to get him. Because, look, the bullpen has been failing them. With Alvarado and company, those guys have been awful. So they went out and picked up the Angels' closer, and he's a pretty damn good one. Now, Tanner Banks is a handy reliever as well, and Austin Hayes helps them, well, more than he would have helped the Orioles, because he was kind of sputtering with the Orioles anyway. And are any of these moves earth-shattering? Nah. But the Phillies don't need earth-shattering anyway. They have pretty good chemistry on the team. The bullpen really was the weak spot, and I would argue that the left side of the infield, and I like Alec Boehm as a hitter. I don't like him as a fielder. And their left fielder, they needed help there too. I don't think that they addressed those issues. I don't think Austin Hayes is the answer. Anyway, they need players that will help in the postseason, and I think they did good enough. So there's going to be a huge momentum shift, I'm sure, somewhere in baseball during the dog days of summer, but it's not going to be with the Phillies. The Phillies are going to stay the course, and I believe bringing in Estevez and Banks certainly is going to help them. So the Phillies and the fans should be very happy. And it seems like they say, well, that's the city of brotherly love. If it's the city of brotherly love, why did they, first of all, boo Santa Claus? Why did they throw snowballs at Santa Claus? This is what they do in Philadelphia, folks. Brotherly love, my ass. I'm sorry, but it seems like those guys can't seem to get along with anybody because they've got to have something to complain about, even if they're a world champion of sorts. What do? They burn the city down, seemingly. Can't say they always do that. It seems as though that's what they do. And I'm not very happy about it. So brotherly love, I don't think so. Nonetheless, and I think a team that really needed to do a little bit more were the Kansas City Royals. I mean, look, the Royals are in a very interesting position when you look that you say, well, they sit basically tied. Well, they're not really tied, but they are... Well, shoot. They're 6.5 back. And they're in the wild card spot. I'm not so sure that... I think the Royals will end up in the wild card position. I think Cleveland was the clear-cut winner in this whole trade deadline thing. But I believe the Royals needed to do more. Now, MLB.com says, no matter what, this season is a success for the Royals. That's kind of a defeatist statement. This team lost 106 games last year, and if they lose every game they play for the rest of the season, something that obviously isn't going to come close to happening, they'd only lose 104. However, the Royals are building something special, something that Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be in the middle of for a very, very long time. So you can't help but credit the team for making sure that the exciting future and their moves will be fruitful. So they see a real opportunity in the American League wildcard race. So they said, apparently MLB.com says they're going for it. Now the Royals brought in so many players, it was tough to keep track of them. Michael Lorenzen, I don't like the move. Paul DeYoung, I do like the move. I don't know, Hunter Harvey, I don't really like the move. None of those players will really make your eyes fall out of your head, but collectively, they say they raise both the floor and the ceiling of the team, and considering how quiet the Twins, clear rivals, not just in the division, but in the wild card chase, were at the deadline, the Royals may have taken a series of small steps forward at the exact time. The Royals aren't going anywhere, not now, and not for a long time. Now, I will say this real quickly. Ronald Acuna Jr. is the best player in baseball until he got injured. Right now, Bobby Witt Jr. is the best player in baseball. Yes, even over Gunnar Henderson. He's a better leader, in my opinion. Watch out for those Royals, folks. Back here with more baseball, here on the Trade Deadline Wrap-Up Show in just a few minutes on the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. Again, here in fabulous Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. And yes, it is certainly the entertainment capital of the world. And of course, the Oakland A's are moving their baseball team here. We have a Stanley Cup champion hockey team. They won the championship last year. We have the Raiders here. And we are getting an NBA franchise, and we're getting a new franchise. And so that stadium is being built on Las Vegas Boulevard right next to the Sahara Hotel and Casino, in between there and the Fontainebleau. And of course, the site is the old Wet and Wild water park for all these old heads that know Vegas from back in the day, and the El Rancho Hotel was right next to it. So it's a large property that's already been bladed, graded, and I don't know when they're going to break ground on it, but it's going to happen at some point pretty soon. One of the people that I know is part of the ownership team of that project, and they started moving dirt on that maybe 3.5, 4 years ago. And so the good news is that project is coming to fruition, and they say, of course, a high-speed rail system between Los Angeles and Las Vegas has broken ground. That's underway as well. I don't necessarily believe that's going to be a huge winner because the drive, hell, I just drove Vegas to LA and LA to Vegas, both in either directions. It took me about 3 hours and 14 minutes to get back from LA and about 3 hours and 10 minutes to get to LA. So I'm not so sure a train will be the best case scenario. And, you know, I bring that up for a couple of reasons. I'll get to the baseball here in just a minute. Because, you know, when we think about traveling to baseball games or football games or hockey or soccer games or basketball games or whatever. Let's say we're tourists and we want to get out there and have some fun, go see a different city, go to a different ballpark. Me personally, I want to go to all the ballparks, all the football stadiums, all the hockey stadiums. I'm not so sure about the basketball. They've kind of lost me for a little while, but we'll see if the basketball can recapture me. I do like some of the players that are out there today. I like the fact that there's a lot of European players because there are some really good European players, and the European players have gotten such a bad rap over time. And honestly, it's been sort of an abomination where they have been biased against over and over. And then, of course, when it was Mark Cuban taking Luka Doncic, and I think that really changed things in a perspective in the long run for the NBA. But I don't want to get into that right now. It's talking about traveling. And we think about traveling to games and stuff like that. You know, are you flying to a game or an event? Consider this, according to the New York Post, there are a lot of issues with luggage. We've all possibly at some point experienced this. But here are the airlines most likely to lose your luggage. Yeah, again, New York Post. Double check your bags when flying with these carriers. A new report takes a close look at mishandled luggage over the past 3 years. And the numbers are staggering. Shipping site mybaggage.com scoured over a wealth of data supplied by the U.S. Department of Transportation that details the total amount of luggage, including wheelchairs and mobility scooters, checked in by the airlines between 2021 and through part of 2024. Now, those numbers were then cross-referenced with the 7 million plus lost items reported over the same period of time, which gave researchers enough data to form a list of airlines with the worst track record for getting travelers and their belongings to the correct destination on time and in order. So what we're going to do is we're going to do like that David Letterman. They have that like the top 10, but we're going to go from 10 to 9. So in 10th place, which is the best of the worst, Spirit Airlines of 37 million bags, 185,610 were mishandled. It comes out of basically to approximately 4.93 out of 1,000 pieces of luggage were lost. Now, a little bit worse, coming in 9th place was Delta Airlines with 1,107,525 missing bags out of 217 million, equivalent to about 5.1 out of 1,000. Of that total, 3,317 were mobility devices. Imagine that. Imagine losing your wheelchair or something terrible like that. Oh, because, sorry, the airlines couldn't handle it right. Coming in 8th place is SkyWest. Yeah, SkyWest, which is actually, I think they're a part of, or they have been a part of American Airlines. I'm not really sure. SkyWest, Delta, I'm not really sure. SkyWest, anyway, lost 439,290 bags from its 38.6 million passengers for an average of 5.28 lost per thousand. Now it gets worse. 7th place was JetBlue. You still planning on flying to these places or flying to these games? You may want to consider the drive. JetBlue, recently panned as the nation's worst airlines, lost 251,388 of its 44 million bags in a 3-year span for over 5.67 average for every 1,000. JetBlue has mishandled a ranking high 33 out of 1,000 mobility devices with a total of 2,661 out of 79,000. Listen, that is a very, very big number of losing anything, let alone those mobility devices. Now, PSA Airlines come in 6th place as the worst, or better yet, the best of the worst, with 6.06 per thousand and a total of 207,000 lost bags from 34 million. Of that, 23,508 were mobility devices. United Airlines in the middle of the pack of the bad with a score of 6.43 lost bags for every 1,000. United saw a whopping 3,350 wheelchairs go missing out of its 932,000. That's a lot of wheelchairs lost. Alaska Airlines, now we're in the top 4. Alaska Airlines, out of 60 million bags, 402,781 had been mishandled for an average of 6.69 per 1,000. Republic Airways, I never even heard of them. Anyway, which stood out for mismanaging nearly 500 wheelchairs and other mobility devices amongst its items handled of lost luggage. They act as another regional carrier like SkyWest for American Airlines, as I'd mentioned before, as well as Delta and United, averaging 7 bags lost out of every 1,000. That's a lot. Who knows what's in those bags and where they go to? Envoy Airline, America's largest regional carrier, formerly known as American Eagle. 224,236 reports. That's a rate of 8.25 lost for every 1,000. And worst, the best, better yet, the worst of the worst, is American Airlines, which struggled with 1,750,000 lost luggage reports, an average of 8.71 disappearances per 1,000 that were loaded onto the aircraft. How the hell does that happen? How do you lose bags? And so we're talking about this because we're talking about this commuting back and forth, LA, Vegas, for example, Orlando, Miami. You have that situation with Brightline. You have trains that you can take. I wonder what the lost baggage rate is on trains, right? Think of the old Trains, Planes, and Automobiles movie, right? And I'm wondering how many bags are lost on trains. Now, we know when shipping containers go across the ocean, when they fall off of those gigantic ocean liners, they have insurance for all that stuff. But I don't know how many containers they lose, but these are loaded onto the airplanes by the baggage handlers. How do they get lost? Oh, maybe they're put on the wrong planes. But when they get put onto the wrong planes, I want to know, what is the recovery rate of those bags being put on the wrong planes and ending up in the right destination? I mean, to me, that makes a little bit of sense. What is the probability if I'm on, for example, on American Airlines, and American Airlines said, oh, sorry, we're the worst of the worst, and apparently we lose 8.71 bags out of every 1,000. And what if that's one of mine? I want to know what the possibility of recovering my bag is going to be for each one of these. I think that's a very big piece of vital information that is being left out of the report. So I'm going to see if I can dig into that because, I mean, let's face it, how many people travel to games and stuff like that? I travel to Super Bowl events and whatnot. I'll get on an airplane and I'll go to this one or that one. And let's face it, I carry my bags. The last time I lost a bag, and the only time I ever lost a bag, was flying from the Northern Territory in Australia, or better yet, from Queensland, over to Honolulu, and I had a bag lost on me. Actually, it was found out that it was stolen, broken into, and then somehow sealed back up. And that was with the old Continental Airlines. And that was the last time I ever checked a bag in 1989. That's crazy. 1989, and we're talking many, many, many years later, 35 years later, something to that effect. I think it's 35 years later. Anyway, the point is, checking bags is a very dangerous game, especially if you're going to lose something or put something in there that you don't want to lose. Carry your stuff on. If you're going on a quick trip, just have carry-on bags. Back here in a few minutes on the circus, and we'll get back to baseball, I promise.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, right here in fabulous, and I say again, fabulous Las Vegas. Folks, if you haven't been here, or if you haven't been here in a while, It is not the same Vegas that you've ever seen before, and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier and more populous. Got to tell you, folks, back when I moved here, there was about 800,000 people. Now there's about 3 million people in this bustling metropolis. And no, it's not just casinos. There's big business here. It's a very different world. It's almost like Las Vegas, California now. So I was talking about that travel to and from in the last segment. That's pretty interesting stuff. So make sure you check out when you're flying somewhere. Check out your bag lost ratios, and who knows, maybe it might decide you, or it may take you to decide which airline to pick up or to travel upon. That's not a bad bit of advice, if you know what I mean. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are, TV, radio, streaming. So I mentioned something in the second segment. It was about the Orioles making deals. And the Orioles didn't make a deal for a big starting pitcher, especially with the White Sox, because the White Sox, as I understood from a reliable source, said that the White Sox wanted Jackson Holliday as part of the Garrett Crochet proposed deal. And apparently that wasn't going to work. We couldn't do that one, is what they said. And quite honestly, I think the Orioles would have been silly to do it. Jackson Holliday is one of those players that you want to keep on your team for the long run. And let's face it, the guy's got an enormous upside. In fact, he was called back up to Baltimore. And, well, let's put it this way. Jackson Holliday did something very, very special. Here's what he did.
Holliday drills it. Right field. Down the line. Grand slam. The happiest of holidays. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackson is here.
I'm going to Jackson. And he gets every stitch of this one. And he knew it when it touched the heart of the bat. 109 off the bat, his first big league home run, and it's a grand slam.
That is exciting. Nice round of applause for Jackson Holliday. Of course, I'm happy for him because I have a couple of his rookie baseball cards. Shameless plug for the baseball card world. But Jackson Holliday is one of those guys that you want on your team. He's kind of like a younger version of Gunnar Henderson. And so pieces that they have for the long run, it seems like the Orioles are building their team like they did way, way, way back in the time machine. Well, with the Cincinnati Reds, the big red machine, they had some great pieces that they brought up through the system. And let's face it, the big red machine was a very, very formidable opponent for anybody that stepped on the field with them. And those guys were loaded in the same way that the Yankees were back in that same era right after. In fact, right even before the big red machine, it was the Oakland A's. And so I think the Orioles are building something very, very special, and it's kind of reminiscent of that. And so, of course, Jackson Holliday said the morning that he felt more prepared before that game, heading out to the start of his second big league stint with the Orioles. This guy's only 20. He's 20. And he went out to prove it that he belonged in the most impressive moment of his career, being that grand slam. Look, Holliday smashed that grand slam for the first big league home run of his career in the fifth inning of Baltimore's 10-4 series finale over the Toronto Blue Jays at Camden Yards. And the homer left the bat of MLB Pipeline's #1 overall prospect at 109.2 miles per hour per StatCast, and it traveled 439 feet. That is a mighty blow. And of course, it was the 7th onto the street, that home run for the season. All right, it's flown right over the wall, out of the park. And the 5th by an Orioles player. Of the 129 total home runs hit onto the street, only 2 have been a player's first career home run, with Holliday joining Astros' Robbie Grossman back on July 31st of 2013 and became the Orioles' first player to accomplish that feat. Of course, a nice round of applause again for him. And Holliday is the 3rd player in Orioles history since 1954 to hit a grand slam for his first Major League Baseball home run, joining Frank Bauer back in 1973 and Fritz Connolly in 1985. This kid is legit. In fact, in Holliday's initial 10-game MLB stint back in April, he was only 2 for 34 with 18 strikeouts, and both of his hits were singles. So, of course, this particular game, he had opened the game with a pair of ground outs in the second, which are better than strikeouts. And, well, let's put it this way. He did a little bit better on his next at bat. So after Holliday stepped to the plate with the bases full, he quickly fell behind 0-2. Looked like another strikeout against Jays righty Yuri Rodriguez. Holliday then hammered on an inside slider, then caught too much of the plate and belted it for the biggest home run of his life, which extended the O's lead 8-3. And let's face it, at that time, it was a closer game. It was a one-run game. And Holliday came inches from hitting a second home run in his next at-bat in the sixth inning, lining an 0-1 fastball just to the side of the left field foul pole. And, of course, the call was reviewed, but ultimately stood as foul. And Holliday struck out on that next pitch. It was an encouraging start for the overall number 1 draft pick of 2022. And this guy is legit. And if you don't think Jackson Holliday is legit, this guy is legit. I mean, he really knows what he's doing at the plate. Just give him a little bit of confidence. And this kid is every bit of that number 1. Now, back to the baseball trade deadline moves. I mean, look, the Padres really bolstered their bullpen, something they really needed to do. And one thing about the Padres, this is according to Sports Illustrated, their general manager, A.J. Preller, he's never afraid to trade away the organization's future to make sure that he makes a push for the playoffs. And, of course, he did it again, acquiring Marlins closer Tanner Scott and reliever Brian Honing as well as Tampa Bay's righty Jason Adams in 2 separate deals. Now, to do so, the Padres sent away 7 prospects, including top pitching prospect Dylan Lesko. It's a really good one. Left-hander Robbie Snelling, ranked number 2 in the organization by MLB Pipeline. Right-hander Adam Mazur, number 4. And infielder Graham Pauley. So, boy, they sure gave up a lot. I don't know about that one. Anyway, aside from the All-Star closer Roberto Suarez, the Padres bullpen has been an issue this season, kind of like what? The Philadelphia Phillies. Ranked 19th in ERA at 4.17, 22nd in opponent's batting average at 247. San Diego now has a star-studded duo in Scott and Adams, setting the table for Suarez at the 9th. I'm not so sure that's a great deal. And, of course, the Jack Flaherty thing we mentioned. I don't like the idea of Jazz Chisholm going to the Yankees. I think the personalities are too big, and he might be an issue with some of the other players, and I could see him clashing with some of the players and the New York media. I think Jazz Chisholm was better in a smaller market team. I think he would have been a pretty good fit in Seattle or possibly in Kansas City playing left field. But then again, Chisholm, the cover athlete for last year's MLB The Show video game, is set to pair his electric personality with the Yankee pinstripes. And of course, Chisholm was named an All-Star in 2002, but hasn't quite lived up to the expectations since then. Now, registering a 105 OPS 100 as a league average, with 13 homers and 101 games for the Marlins this season. Look, he's already made an impact for the Yankees. However, hitting a couple of home runs in New York's 14-4 rout of Philadelphia was a nice thing, but it's not the end of the day for all of his work. I mean, the guy needs to do a little bit more. And the Yankees sent 3 minor leaguers to Miami, catcher Agustin Ramirez, as well as infielders Jared Cerna and Abraham Ramirez. I don't think that selling the future for a mediocre player, in my opinion, was really the best case scenario. So, of course, we had mentioned Eloy Jimenez leaving the White Sox, and the Orioles trading for Trevor Rogers. Jorge Soler rejoins the Braves. I'm not so sure that's a great idea, but then again, I'm not Braves management, so I have no idea. Anyway, Sports Illustrated has all these wonderful reports, and they say the Giants had themselves an interesting trade deadline, which began with them trading designated hitter Jorge Soler to the Braves. And Soler, who also was traded to Atlanta at the 2021 deadline, went on to be named World Series MVP that fall, hit just 12 homers in 93 games with the Giants this season, but had an 860 OPS since June 1st. I like how they say, well, since this date. What about the whole season? The Giants also sent reliever Luke Jackson in the deal and acquired lefty Tyler Matzik and prospect Saban Ceballos. They also traded away starting pitcher Alex Cobb to the Cleveland Guardians and acquired first baseman outfielder Mark Canha from the Tigers before the deadline. What a conundrum. Now, the Brewers took a chance on Frankie Montas. I do like the move, but the Brewers really need pitching help. They need people to eat innings. The Mariners made the deal with Arozarena, like I mentioned. How about the Guardians make a deal for Lane Thomas? That's a really good one, I think. And, of course, I believe that Cleveland probably won the trade deadline, if the competition, if there ever was one. I suppose it is. Sitting atop the AL Central, Cleveland isn't messing around. The Guardians added Thomas to their outfield mix by trading 3 prospects, a lefty pitcher, a shortstop, and an infielder And Washington ends up with even more draft picks. They just keep developing them as well. So in 77 games, Tom's batting he's slashing 253, 331, 407, 16 doubles, 4 RBIs. And of course, this guy is a right fielder generally, so he'll join Stephen Kwan as well as Tyler Freeman and Will Brennan in Cleveland's outfielder core. Will Brennan will be, and Tyler Freeman will be the odd man out typically on playing days. Astros add Kikuchi, and so they've got themselves a reasonably good starter as well that eats innings. So they deal off Will Wagner and Jake Bloss, 3 prospects, and outfielder Joey Loperfido to get Kikuchi. I think that's a good deal for the Astros. Rich get richer. They're over there. And, we could go through each one of these trades and say, well, this one was good, this one was good. Who really did the best? Cleveland not making a bunch of moves, but making quality moves. I think they did very, very well. And you don't have to make big moves, and frankly, you don't even have to make moves. You just need moves in the locker room to change certain things on the team. And if you have locker room moves, I think those in the clubhouse can change the chemistry very quickly, just like a new player. And usually it's the fear when somebody gets traded from your team that was maybe an integral part of it. That's usually the fear that, hey, you guys better start playing better. And let's face it, it's okay for teams to have disputes and say, hey, I want more out of you. I want 100% instead of 30% out of you and stuff like that. I think player meetings, excluding the management, I don't like it. I think if the management is going to be discussed at any point, the management needs to be discussed with the management there. So trades, I think trades in certain cases should be discussed with some of the other players as well. Seems like a reasonable proposal. Anyway, folks, we're out of time here on the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.